Hello everyone. Today we are looking at next generation quantitative reasoning, algebra and statistics sample questions for NJ-GPA 11th grade math. Okay, now we are looking at the first question, which says, which of the following expressions is 5 times as much as the sum of R and S? This has some key details that we need to focus on. The first thing that I would focus on in this question would be the statement 5 times as much. The second statement would be sum of R and S. These are the two important statements that I would look at and keep in consideration for first before looking at my answer choices. So let's explore each of the answer choices. A, it says 5 times R plus S. Now, I want you guys to take a moment and think about why this might be right or wrong. Coming to answer choice A, 5 times R plus S. This has all the components that we have in the first and second bullet points, but it misses something, and that is this expression would be incorrect because 5 times R plus S does not say the sum of R plus S times 5 because it could be anything. Like it could be 5 times R. Let's say R is a number, let's say 7, and plus S, which could be, again, any number. I would just take 2. So this would be incorrect because it is only multiplying 5 times this and then adding plus 2, or in our case, any number which is S. Hence, this would not be a correct choice. Now, let's look at option B. Option B says 5 plus R plus S. This is not a correct choice because it is 5 plus R plus S. So this is basically the sum of R, S, and 5. And this lacks the first statement, which says 5 times as much. Hence, this is not the correct choice. Now let's look at the third one, the third option choice that is given, which is C. C says R plus S times 5. This is similar to A, but the only thing that is different is the order written is different, like R plus S times 5. This also has the same problem as option A because R plus S is being multiplied by 5, but here, that's what we need, but here S is being multiplied by 5 and not R. So C cannot be a good choice for this. Now let's explore the fourth option, which is D. D states R plus S times 5. This might be the right answer, and this is the right answer because it has the sum of R and S given, and then it's times 5. So here it checkboxes both the requirements that we have from the question. Unlike the other questions where only 5 was being multiplied by one of them, the addition of parentheses is very important as it shows us that the sum of R and S is being multiplied by 5. So this is the correct answer. Now, let's move on to the second question. The second question says, what is the solution to the equation 1/2 x plus 3/2 x plus 1 in parentheses minus 1/4 equals 5? Here, we can see up the question here, and here are the 4 answer choices given. So first, let's see how to solve this question before we come up to the answer choices. Okay, in this case, the first step that I would take would be, I would take 1/2 x plus 3/2 x plus 1, and we need to make sure that the 3/2 x plus 1 is not distributed yet. And then I would take 1/4 and I would set it equal to 5 as the equation is. I would just rewrite the equation for myself. And then the first step that I would take would be that I would distribute the 3½ x's. So I will do 3½ x plus 3/2 minus 1/4 equals 5. After this, I would simplify my equation, which would come up to this would be 6 minus 1/4 because I multiplied the numerator and the denominator by 2. And then I would set the whole thing again equal to 5. So 6 minus 1, that would be 5/4 here. And at the same time, because these both have the same denominator, I could just add my x's together because they are like terms. So that would be 4x divided by 2. And I would again not touch the other side, which is equal to 5. Once I have done this, I'm going to simplify my x again because I know that 2 can be divided twice for 4 and that will become 2x. And now I would take my 5/4 and then subtract it on the other side to get 5 minus 5/4. After this step, the next step that I would take would be I would take 2x. Then I would also multiply my 5, its denominator by 4, and also the numerator by 4. And that would be 20 minus 5, all divided by 4 because they have the same denominator. After this, I would make sure that 20 minus 5, that is nothing but 15/4. And I still have a 2x. Remember, our solution needs to just be x. It cannot be 2x. Hence, I will just continue by saying that 2x equals 15/4. Now, I will be dividing both sides by 2, or I could also multiply both sides by 1/2. And doing so eliminates my 2 from the x side. So, x is nothing apart from 15/8 because when I multiply 15/4 times 1/2, it is going to be 15/8. So my option is C, which is 15/8. Third question. What is the number of grams in 500 kilograms? In this question, I have one keyword given, and that is 500 kilograms. And my motive is to make it into grams. There is also a conversion unit that is given to us which says 1 kilogram equals to 1,000 grams. This is extremely important information as this is going to help me out in figuring out which of my options are correct or incorrect. So first, for this problem, what I would do first is I would first write down my givens, and that would be 500 kilograms. This is my given. And now I must think that how can I convert it to grams? For this, I would be using stoichiometry as it would really give me the answer in a quick and an effective way. So I could see that I have kilograms here, and I know that 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So I would take 1 kilogram, place it here, and I would take my 1,000 grams and put it here. Now, I could cancel out kilograms and kilograms. I could multiply 500 by 1,000, and because grams is the unit that's left, it becomes into grams. Now, let's explore our options. A says it's 0.5. But looking at the numbers are extremely huge. Hence, A, 0.5, might not be a good choice. B, it says 5,000. 5,000 is not a possible answer choice because technically when we are multiplying 500 by 1,000, it's way over than 5,000. C, 50,000. This might be an interesting choice at first look, but we cannot eliminate this right off. And D, it is 500,000. Let's see which is the right choice. So when I put this into a calculator and calculate, it is going to be 500,000, which is D. C is not a right answer choice because just by looking at it, if you look at the number of zeros in C, it is 4 zeros. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, and also in my answer. So that's a quick trick there. Hence, D, 500,000 is the correct answer. Okay. Now, looking at the fourth question. The fourth question gives us a graph which is a bar graph, and it shows us the representation of 2 years. Now, let's look at the questions. Robert sells 4 different flavors of jam at an annual farmer's market. The graph above shows the number of jars of each type of jam he sold at the market during the first 2 years. Which flavor of jam had the greatest increase in numbers of the jars sold from year 1 to year 2? Okay, I have a few key points here. The question tells me that I want to know the flavor of the jam that had the greatest increase. Had greatest increase. This can be done just by looking at the graph. And I say this because looking at the options, the blueberry, grape, peach, and strawberry, the color also definitely indicates the year 1 and year 2 graphs. Hence, the year 1 graphs are given first. What I would do is I would compare the numbers on the y-axis of the year 1 and year 2 graphs. And as we see, for option A, blueberry, that is an option because we can see that there is an increase in the year 2 graph compared to the year 1 graph. So it does fit our description. B, grape, that also fits our description because the year 2 graph is larger than the year 1 graph. C, peach, that also fits our description because the year 2 graph is huge. But D, strawberry, does not fit our description in the first stage because the second graph is smaller than the first graph. Hence, I can eliminate the option D. Now, comparing between these three, the first step that I would take would be to calculate the change between the year 2 and the year 1 of each. Now, let's look at each option. A, the A graph clearly shows me that the year 2 graph has the 18 jars sold, and the year 1 of the blueberry had only 10 sold. So I know that there is an 8 increase from year 2 to year 1. Let's look at B. In B, I know that there were 25 sold initially, and then there were 30 sold the year prior. Hence, that would be 30 minus 25, which is an increase of 5 jars. C, that is the peach flavor, and I know that there were 12 sold in the second year and 10 sold in the prior year. So that's an increase of 2. Looking at these, my question asks me the greatest increase. Hence, I would choose the greatest increase option, and that would be A. Hence, A is the correct option. Now, coming to question number 5. In the xy plane, a line crosses the y-axis at the point 0, 3 and passes through the point 4, 5. Which of the following is an equation of the line? Okay, this problem requires us to look at a formula that we have to use. And this is a popular formula that many of us might have encountered before. That is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This formula will help us find the slope, which is extremely important in this case. So to find the slope, I would just label this as x1 and y1 and this as x2 and y2. And I would start from there. So I would just plug in my numbers into this formula. That would be 5, which is my y2, minus 3, which is my y1, and 4, which is my x2, minus 0, which is my x1. That would give me 1/2 x. So 1/2 is my slope, and this is my 1/2 x is my slope, basically. Now, to find my B intercept, I have to do something else. That is, I will have to say y equals 1/2 x plus b. And in this case, I will actually pick one of the points. It could be either of the points, 0, 3, or 4, 5. And then I will have to plug it into the equation for y and x so that I could find b. Okay, let's do this. Because 0 and 3, it's an easier one. I think I would pick this to find out. So then my y in this case is 3, and I would say it equals to 1/2 x. In place of x, I'm substituting 0. So that's going to be b. So my answer is basically 3. And I must say that it is a positive 3. So I need to look for the choice out of all my 4 options, which A has a slope of 1/2 x, and my B needs to be 3. Which of the options has that? Let's look. Option A has it. B, C, and D, they don't have it, so they're not right choices. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Now, let's look at question number 6. The question says the amount of money M in dollars Paul earns can be represented by the equation M equals 12.5h plus 11, where h is the number of hours Paul works. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the number 11 in the question? Okay, my keywords in this question would be number of hours Paul works and the statement, the equation that is given, M equals 12.5h plus 11. So my question, the main question that I need to answer in this is, what is 11? Let's look at the options. Option A, the amount of money in dollars Paul earns each hour. Well, I don't think that is right because 12.5h, so the amount he earns per hour is 12.5, and that is not 11. So option A is not a choice. B, the total amount of money in dollars Paul earns after working for 8 hours. Well, that is not mentioned in the equation because the equation says M equals to 12.5h plus 11. Hence, B is not an option. C, the total amount of money in dollars Paul earns after working for 1 hour. It does not specify 1 hour anywhere. It just says the number of hours. So C could not be an option because it's very close, but it's not an option. D, the amount of money in dollars Paul earns in addition to an hourly wage. D would be the right choice. And this is because 12.5 and 8 are given together, so this is what he earns per hour. Whereas 11 could be just an additional bonus or something else that he earns that is additional to whatever he makes per hour. Hence, D is the correct choice. Question number 7. The table gives the population of the 5 largest countries in the European Union in the year 2014. Which of the following is the closest to the mean population of these countries? Okay, the first thing that we need to realize is that there's a table given. And the most important word here is the mean. So, how to find the mean? We need to add up all the numbers given in the table, and then later on, we need to divide it by the number of countries given in this case. Okay, so let's add. The first one that is given is 65.9 plus 80.8 plus 60.8 plus 46.5 plus 64.3. Okay, we need to add all these numbers up and then we need to divide by 5 because there are 5 countries present. And in this case, we get a number which is C. Hence, in this case, I would not be considering any of the other 3 options. Okay, question number 8. Which of the following fractions is equivalent to -6 subtracted by -9 divided by 8? Okay, this problem is an interesting one to look at because here the significance of signs is extremely important. So for solving this problem, the first step that I would take is I would rewrite the problem by doing -6, then I would distribute the negative sign. That would make a negative times negative is a positive. So it would be -6 plus 9. And then I would keep the division sign as the same, which is divided by 8. So that would be -6 plus 9, which we know is +3 by 8. Hence, the answer is B, 3 over 8. And I don't have to look at the other options. Hence, the answer is B. Question number 9. Water runs from a pump at a rate of 1.5 gallons per minute. At this rate, how long would it take to fill a bathtub with 150-gallon capacity? Okay, in this, first I would like to set up a ratio which says 1.5 gallons per minute. 150 gallons is equal to how many minutes? In this case, the first thing I would do, even before I look at my options, would be to cross multiply. So 1.5x equals 150 times 1, that is going to be 150. Now, I'm going to isolate x. So I would divide by 1.5 on both sides. That would give me x, which would be equal to 100. Hence, my answer here is B, 100 minutes. Question number 10. The volume of a right rectangular prism is found by multiplying length of the base by the width of the base by the height of the prism. A rectangular prism has a volume of 30 cubic inches. If the height of the prism is 6 inches, what is the area of the base of the prism? Okay, the important keyword here would be, what is the area of the prism? Okay, in this, we need an important formula, and that is a volume formula. Here, I have it given saying that the volume is 30 cubic inches. And area. Area is nothing but length times width in this case. So I could substitute that for length times width, and that becomes my area. And my height is 6 inches. So here, it becomes a simple problem. And here, it's just that A times 6 equals 30. So to find A, I could divide by 6 on both sides. And my A would be 5. Hence, in my options, I can look for 5, and that is option A. So, A is the right answer. Now, let us look at question number 11. Jacoby followed a recipe that requires 2 cups of water for every 3 cups of flour. If he used 8 cups of flour, how many cups of water did he use? Okay. So the key pieces of information in this that is given is for every 2 cups of water, we need 3 cups of flour. So if we have 8 cups of flour, how many cups of water do we need? We could solve this by multiplying them, cross-multiplying them, and then we could just do 3x equals 16 by 3 because 8 times 2 is 16, and then we could divide by 3 on both sides. That gives us x to be 16 by 3. But you might wonder that I do not see 16 by 3 in any of my options. So we need to realize that this is an improper fraction, and in this, we can look for this option here itself. So looking at all the options, option A, we would convert this into an improper fraction by doing 3 times 2 plus 2, which would be 8 over 3. But is 8 over 3 our answer? No. So A is not a choice. Then we could see B. B is 4. Okay, so is this 4? No, so B is not a choice. C. So 5 times 3 would be 15 plus 1 would be 16. 16 over 3. Yes, that is our x. Hence, C is the correct choice. Now, let's look at question number 12. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression that is given above? The expression given here is 4 times x plus 5 in parentheses plus 4x plus 8. Okay, the first step in this would be to distribute the 4 into the brackets, and that would be 4x plus 4 times 5, that's 20, and I would not touch my 4x plus 8 right now. After finding this out, then I would combine like terms, which would be 4x plus 4x, which is 8x, and 20 plus 8, 28. Now, I could just take a quick look at my options. Are any of my options matching this? Well, I could make it clear that the option D and option C do not match it, as 28 is here and one has 17 and one has 13. So these are not good choices. We could eliminate these. The other two choices that are left are B, which is 8x plus 4. But again, 8 times 4 does not equal 28. So I could cross out that option. But A does not match this in this form. Hence, the next step that I would take is factoring a 4 out, and that would give me 4 times 2x plus 7. And yes, is that a choice? Yes. Hence, A is the answer. Problem 13. It took Khalid 90 minutes to complete 40 tasks. Which of the following is at an equivalent rate? Okay, so this is a rate-related problem, so I could do the same thing I did a couple of problems back, and that would be set up my ratios. 90 minutes, you can complete 40 tasks. So in how many minutes can you complete 10 tasks? Okay, this is easy. First, I would set up my ratios where I would cross multiply 90 times 10 and 40 times x. So 40x equals 900 divided by 40 because 40 times the x is this, and 90 times 100 would be 900. So I could divide by 40 on both sides, and my x would be 22.5. Is that a choice? Let's look. A, 0.9 minutes. No, that is not a choice. B, 2.25 minutes. This could actually throw us off if we are not looking at our decimals clearly, which most probably happens in exams, so be careful with the decimals there. So B is not a choice. C, 9 minutes. That is clearly not a choice. Hence, D, 10 tasks in 22.5 minutes is the correct choice. Question 14. This question has a table given, and this question is about probability. Okay, the first thing that we need to do, even before looking at the question, is to look at the table. So we have voting on an issue in this table, which is mentioned. We have plans to vote yes on a P issue, plans to vote no on a P issue. That is given vertically. And then horizontally, we have plans to vote yes on a Q issue and plans to vote no on a Q issue. And all of this has a total given. Okay, now let's move on to the question. The table shows a survey of 50 registered voters in a city. Each voter was asked whether they plan to vote yes or no on two different issues. If a voter who plans to vote yes on issue P is randomly selected, what is the probability that the voter also plans to vote yes on Q issue? And we have 4 answer choices given. Okay, in this question, we have 2 important things that we need to notice first. That is, we need 2 things that need to match in order to find our answer. We need to find out how many people would vote yes on P issue, and then how many people would vote yes on Q issue. Okay, looking at the total table. People who are planning to vote yes on Q issue are 8, and those are the same people who are planning to vote no on the P issue. Okay, and in this case, we could divide. Look at the numbers. The people who plan to vote yes on P issue and the people who plan to vote yes on Q issue are 8. And the total number of people are 20. Hence, we could divide this and we could find 0.4 as the answer. So, looking at my answer choices, which of the following is 0.40? That is C. Hence, my answer choice would be C. Question 15. Which of the following values is equivalent to 5 raised to the exponent -3? And we have 4 answer choices given. So 5 raised to the -3, we could write it as 1 over 5 raised to the 3rd, because that would become a fraction, and then it's like 1/5 to the 3rd. And that, we could just keep 1 as it is, and 5 raised to the 3rd would be 125. In our 4 choices, we could look for a choice that clearly says 1 over 125. And just make sure that 1 over 125 and -125 are not the same thing. Okay, now let's look at our choices. A is 1 over 15. That's not the thing we got, so we could strike that off. B, 1 over 125. That's the exact thing we got. C, negative 15. And D, negative 125. These are not the correct choices. Hence, the answer is B, 1 over 125. Question 16. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to x raised to the power 3 times x raised to the power 2, the whole thing raised to the power 5? Okay, in this, because my base is the same, which is x, I could add 3 plus 2 inside the parentheses, and that would make it x raised to the 5. And I also need to mention it that the other 5, which is outside the parentheses, is still present. But because of the properties of exponents, I could multiply 5 times 5, which gives me x raised to the 25. Okay, now let's look at our options. Option A, x raised to 10. That is not the right choice. B, x raised to 15. That is not a right choice either. C, x raised to 25. That is the correct choice. Hence, C, x raised to 25 is the correct choice. Question 17. The elevation at the summit of Mount Whitney is 4,418 meters above sea level. Climbers begin at a trailhead that has an elevation of 2,550 meters above sea level. What is the change in elevation to the nearest foot between the trailhead and the summit? We are also given a conversion unit here which says 1 foot equals 0.3048 meters. Okay, in this problem, the first piece of information that I want to find out is how much is the elevation. So for that, I would take the total amount that is given, which is 4418, and subtract it from 2550, which gives me 1868. Now, I would make sure that 1868 is in meters. And as we can see on their answers, we have it in feet. Hence, I would take my 1868 meters and then I would use stoichiometry. I would put 1 feet here and I would put 0.3048 meters here. I would cancel out my meters and that would leave me with 6129 feet. Okay, now let's look at our answer choices. A is 569 feet. Is that an answer choice? No, I did not get that. B, 5,604 feet. That's not the answer choice that I got either. C, 6,129 feet. Yes, that's the answer we got. So C, 6,129 feet is the answer. Question 18. The two lines given by the equations above intersect in the xy plane. What is the value of the y-coordinate of the point of intersection? The two equations that are given here are 3x minus 2y equals 15. And the second one that is given is x equals 2. Okay, what am I finding out in this problem? I am finding out what is my y value. I can do this by a simple method, which is substitution. So I could take x equals 3 and plug it into my first equation, which would be 3 times 3, which is 9. I would keep my negative 2y and 15 intact. So 9 minus 2y equals 15. After that, I would subtract 9 on both sides. Then I would get negative 2y equals 6. Remember, my goal is to isolate y. So I would divide by negative 2 on both sides. And that would give me y equals negative 3. Now, let's look at our answer choices. A, negative 7. That's not an answer choice at all. B, negative 3. Yes, that is my answer. But then, again, let's explore the other options as well. C, 3. This would not be a correct answer choice because of the sign. So be careful and watch out for the signs. D, 7. That is not an answer choice. Hence, B, negative 3 is the correct answer choice. Question number 19. Sets L, M, and N are shown above. Which of the following sets represents the union of L with the intersection of the sets M and N? Okay, in this, we could see the sets given, L, M and N. This is the intersection or N. What is in both? That is the symbol here. And this is U. Union or what is in one or other. So we need to find the one in which we have the L, which is the union, and also the intersection of M and N. Okay, so we need the whole L, and also we need to find out the union. So which is the thing that is like in M and also N? Which are the numbers? Okay, in this case, the numbers which are also in M and N are 10 and 20. They are consistently there in both the sets. And because we need the union of L, that means that we need to take all the numbers in L. So now let's look at our options. Option A, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 80, and 100. A is not a good choice because it does not have the other numbers that are required, which are, even though it has 10 and 20, there are a few numbers that do not like overlap between M and N. Hence, A is not a good choice. B. This could be a choice because it has all the numbers in the L, and also it has the numbers which we need, which are 10 and 20, because they are in both the sets present. So B could be a choice. C, it only has 20 and 40. So that is not a choice. And D, it only has 20, hence that is not a choice. Hence, B is our final answer. Question 20. Triangle PQR lies in the xy plane and the coordinates of vertex Q are 2, -3. Triangle PQR is rotated 180 degrees clockwise about the origin and then reflected across the y-axis to produce triangle PQR, where the vertex Q responds to the vertex Q of the triangle PQR. What are the coordinates of Q? Okay, so in this, first we need to look at our graph, and there are a few key pieces of information. First, the original vertex Q is 2, -3. And the second thing that they mentioned in the question is that it is rotated 180 degrees. The coordinate that we need to find is Q prime. Okay, now when we do this, we could just look at the graph and we need to make sure that the origin is involved and we reflect the point first. After that, we need to rotate 180 degrees. That would bring us to the point 2, 3. So let's see, is that an answer choice? A, -3, -2. No, that is not the correct answer. B, 3, -2. Well, it is 2 and 3, so that is also not the correct answer. C, -2, 3. 3 is the correct one, but then -2 is not the x value that you get it at. So 3 is not the right answer. And D, it is 2 and 3. Yes, D is the correct answer. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or want any further clarifications regarding any of the problems, please reach out to me, as I would love to help you guys. And most importantly, I would love to thank the Sayreville War Memorial High School, specifically Ms. Donna Sikola, Ms. Mala Maharana, the guidance department, and also the math department for giving me this wonderful opportunity to create this video by exploring my passions. Thank you.